Ichika woke up in a place high above the sky and remembered the last battle he had fought alongside the others. He had kept striking at his enemy, but then he was hit by the enemy's sword. When he looked around, he saw Chifuyu standing in front of him. Ichika tried to greet her, but something strange happened. A dark aura suddenly surrounded Chifuyu and the space around her. Right after that, Charlotte appeared and grabbed Ichika by the neck, looking like she was about to end his life. Ichika struggled in pain against the choking, but before long his body weakened, and he lost consciousness. The next morning, Ichika woke up in his own room with Laura's foot pressed against his face. He could not figure out what Laura was doing. Laura smiled while spreading a blanket in front of him and explained that she was not undressed. Ichika was confused about why Laura was wearing a swimsuit instead. Laura said that it was advice from her aide. She even showed him a flyer, inviting him to go with her to a date and the late summer festival. Coincidentally, the festival was a place Ichika had wanted to visit. At the festival, people could even rent yukata, and Laura was excited about the idea of wearing yukata together with him. Ichika said that he wanted to invite Laura along with the others, but Laura became upset and quickly left. Ichika could not understand why Laura was so angry. Meanwhile, Cecilia had returned and felt happy to finally be under the same sky as the person she liked. Soon after, Ichika arrived and greeted her. Cecilia felt nervous and smiled brightly. Since it had been a week since they last saw each other, Cecilia assumed Ichika had come all the way just to pick her up. She imagined him holding flowers and leaning closer to kiss her. Her thoughts left her blushing and lost in daydreams. Ichika then handed her a flyer and asked if she would like to go with him tomorrow. Cecilia's face lit up with joy as she believed he was inviting her on a date. She happily accepted his invitation. Laura was later seen eating with Charlotte at a cafe. She was still upset about Ichika's reaction earlier that morning, which she felt showed that he did not understand her feelings. Charlotte asked if Laura had any free time because she wanted to invite her to go shopping for clothes together. Laura was surprised by the offer, saying that she already had plenty of military uniforms. Charlotte explained that what she wore were military outfits, and if she kept wearing them in public, her superior officers might scold her. Since the summer vacation was about to end, Charlotte wanted to spend time with her before it was over. Laura eventually agreed to join her for shopping. They set a time for 10 o'clock, and Laura quickly changed into what she considered casual clothes, although it still looked like a uniform. While waiting for the train, they overheard three girls talking about crepes. The girls mentioned a rumor that if someone ate a mixed berry crepe with the person they liked, that person would fall in love with them. Charlotte was surprised to hear that something as simple as a mixed berry flavor could supposedly make people fall in love. Later that day, Lingyan was lying on her bed enjoying some ice cream. She thought about how much she wanted to spend her summer vacation with Ichika, especially since the next day was the last day of the break. She wondered why Ichika had not invited her anywhere even though she had purposely stayed at school during summer instead of going home. Suddenly, Ichika knocked on her door. Lingyan quickly jumped off her bed to block him from entering, but Ichika had already opened the door. Ichika accidentally saw her in a way that made her feel embarrassed. Flustered, Lingyan reflexively shoved him out of her room. As he tumbled out, a flyer slipped from his hand and Lingyan picked it up to read it. Meanwhile, Charlotte and Laura were strolling through the mall. Charlotte asked what kind of clothes Laura wanted, but Laura still had not decided. Charlotte suggested they look for fall outfits, but Laura declined since it was still summer. Charlotte explained that girls usually buy clothes for the upcoming season. They went into a clothing store, and as soon as they entered, the customers inside were stunned by their beauty. The store clerk blushed while greeting them and even offered for them to try on the store's newest collection. Charlotte thought the clothes were a bit too thin and asked Laura what she thought. Laura said they were not bad, so Charlotte encouraged her to try them on. With a faint blush on her face, Laura stepped into the fitting room to change. Inside the changing room, Laura took off her clothes and looked at herself in the mirror, wondering if men could really find her body attractive. After a moment, she put her uniform back on. She thought about whether Ichika would compliment her if she wore something sweet and stylish. Charlotte walked up to her and pulled open the curtain, only to find that Laura was still wearing her uniform. Charlotte guessed that Laura might not like the outfit, but Laura explained that she wanted something cuter and a bit more open. Charlotte quickly picked out an outfit for her. When Laura tried it on, the customers in the store immediately complimented her. Charlotte asked Laura to put on a pair of shoes, but as soon as Laura stepped into them, her legs started to shake and she stumbled. Charlotte rushed to help her and a small crowd gathered around, some of them snapping pictures. Charlotte smiled confidently at them, while Laura looked embarrassed. Meanwhile, Hoki was practicing her sword techniques with determination, vowing to protect the people she cared about. After training, she headed for a warm shower. While drying off, she noticed how her body had been changing as she continued her training. Not long after, Ichika called out to her, saying he wanted to talk. Hoki quickly got dressed and opened the door. Ichika apologized when he realized she had just finished showering and handed her a flyer for an upcoming event, inviting her to go with him. Slightly surprised, Hoki accepted the invitation. Later that afternoon, Laura and Charlotte stopped by a cafe. The cafe manager kept glancing at them with interest. Charlotte teased Laura, saying she should have just worn her new outfit right away and guessed that Laura might be saving it to show Ichika. Laura immediately denied it. Suddenly, the cafe manager approached and offered them part-time jobs. Charlotte was surprised when the manager suggested she wear a butler outfit, but the manager explained that Charlotte suited the look perfectly, while Laura would wear a maid uniform. Not long after, a group of armed robbers burst into the cafe, sending customers into a panic. Police arrived outside, but the robbers tried to threaten them by firing warning shots. One of the robbers demanded a drink from Laura, but instead of panicking, she brought out a bucket of ice and used it to distract them before quickly disarming several of them with swift movements. Another robber fired a shot at her, but Laura dodged easily. Charlotte joined in and kicked one of the armed men, while Laura handled the rest with impressive skill. Just when it seemed to be over, one of the robbers grabbed a dropped gun and aimed it at them. Laura reacted immediately, kicking the weapon out of his hand and securing it. The cafe guests thanked them repeatedly, but Laura and Charlotte knew they had to leave quickly to avoid revealing their identities as international representatives. Before they could leave, one of the robbers stood up again, revealing a bomb strapped to his body. Acting fast, Laura and Charlotte aimed at the device's trigger mechanism, successfully disabling it and forcing the robber to surrender without harming anyone. Afterward, the two went to buy mixed berry crepes, but unfortunately that flavor was sold out. Instead, they ordered strawberry and blueberry crepes and enjoyed them by the lake. Charlotte mentioned that someday she hoped to share a mixed berry crepe with Ichika. Suddenly, Laura leaned closer to Charlotte's face, making Charlotte's heart race. Laura simply pointed out a bit of cream on Charlotte's cheek and licked it off before Charlotte could react. Charlotte blushed and gently scolded Laura, saying she could have just mentioned it. Laura smiled, asking Charlotte not to be upset, and even offered her a bite of her own crepe. Laura explained that the shop didn't actually make a special mixed berry flavor. It was simply a mix of strawberry and blueberry. She added that Charlotte had basically just tasted mixed berry anyway. Charlotte laughed, realizing that was probably why the special flavor always sold out, since couples believed sharing it would bring happiness. That evening in the dorms, Charlotte and Laura put on matching cat pajamas. Charlotte hugged Laura, saying she looked absolutely adorable, and asked her to try making a cat sound. Laura blushed and asked why she had to do something like that. Charlotte demonstrated with a playful meow, and Laura eventually followed along, her face still red. A moment later, Ichika arrived and complimented their unique pajamas, calling them both really cute. Hearing that made both Charlotte and Laura smile with happiness. Ichika then showed Charlotte a flyer for the upcoming festival. That night, an intruder was detected in Area 60. The intruder turned out to be a girl whose body had been enhanced with nanomachines. She swiftly overpowered the security forces who tried to stop her. Soon after, the Infinite Stratos unit confronted her. The girl activated her own Infinite Stratos system and launched an attack on the defense team in front of her. The next day, Hoki walked alone to meet Ichika, still surprised that he had invited her on what she thought would be a date. However, when she arrived at the meeting spot, she found Laura, Cecilia, Lingyan, and Charlotte already there. Ichika quickly ran over to greet all of them. The girls looked annoyed, believing Ichika had asked each of them out individually for a private date. They accused him of toying with their feelings, while Ichika was completely confused about why everyone was angry with him. When they reached the swimming pool, Ichika waited while the girls changed into their swimsuits. Before long, Cecilia rushed over and invited him to swim with her. Ichika asked about the others, but Cecilia lied, claiming that everyone else had already gone ahead to the pool. At that time, Hoki and the others were still inflating the pool floats. Cecilia had actually bought the floats on purpose to delay them, giving herself time alone with Ichika. Once they realized her plan, Lingyan and the others were frustrated that Cecilia had tricked them. Ichika and Cecilia played in the water together while Ichika kept wondering why he couldn't see the others. At one point, Cecilia pretended to slip and pulled Ichika down with her so that Laura and Lingyan wouldn't spot them. Ichika was baffled by her actions. Charlotte felt relieved that she hadn't been caught earlier, but before long, Hani and the rest arrived and greeted Ichika. Hani commented on Cecilia's daring swimsuit, surprising the others with how bold Cecilia had been. Cecilia tried to deny it, but before the conversation could continue, a big wave swept over them. Ichika ended up at the edge of the pool, where Haoki and Charlotte found him and invited him to join them on the tandem water slide. Both Haoki and Charlotte wanted to ride with him, so they decided with a quick game of rock, paper, scissors. Charlotte won and got to ride with Ichika. A pool employee gave instructions, asking Charlotte to sit on Ichika's lap and telling Ichika to hold her tightly for safety. Both of them blushed in embarrassment. Ichika gently wrapped his arms around Charlotte's waist and apologized if it made her uncomfortable. Haoki watched with clear irritation. The staff member adjusted Ichika's hold on Charlotte before sending them down the slide. During the ride, Ichika instinctively held Charlotte tighter, accidentally brushing against her chest. After landing, Ichika immediately apologized, insisting it was an accident. Charlotte, though flustered, called him clumsy, her face bright red with embarrassment. Next, it was Haoki's turn to ride with Ichika. This time, Ichika suggested Haoki sit behind him because the water pressure was strong and it would be safer. Haoki quickly wrapped her arms around him from behind, but Ichika grew nervous when he felt her chest pressing lightly against his back. Haoki's face turned bright red and she instinctively tightened her hold. After they reached the bottom, Haoki stayed quiet until Ichika asked if something was wrong. She finally commented that she hadn't expected his back to feel so broad. Meanwhile, Maya and Shifuyu were also at the pool. Maya asked why Shifuyu wasn't spending time with Ichika. Shifuyu calmly explained that joining him would ruin her precious vacation. Shortly after, Shifuyu received an urgent phone call that seemed to require her immediate attention. Later that evening at the Summer Festival Plaza, Ichika was captivated by the sight of the girls wearing colorful yukata. Together, they tried the traditional goldfish scooping game. Ichika attempted to catch one, but his paper scoop tore, letting the fish slip back into the water. Afterward, they strolled through the festival, buying snacks like takoyaki, cotton candy, and shaved ice. They also played a shooting game where the girls successfully won small stuffed animals. Haoki and Ichika decided not to try since neither of them was good at shooting. Laura severed sights on a giant plush toy but failed to win it. Determined to help the others line up to assist her, even Haoki joined in. They fired together in unison, and finally a huge prize was won. That night, while Maya and Shifuyu quietly gathered information about Infinite Stratos, Silent Zephyrus, Ichika and his friends enjoyed their last evening of summer by lighting sparklers and watching the fireworks together. That day, Ichika was having a sparring match with Lingyan. No matter how many times Lingyan tried to keep her distance, Ichika kept closing in to attack. He kept firing at her, easily predicting every move she was about to make. Lingyan refused to give up and swung her weapon to strike back, but Ichika blocked it effortlessly and sent her off balance. Without giving her a break, he continued to shoot. At the same time, Maya and Shifuyu were watching their match on a monitor. Maya commented on how fired up they both were for the first sparring session of the second semester. She thought Ichika seemed more skilled than Lingyan, but Shifuyu believed Ichika was only attacking recklessly without thinking. The battle moved into the air as Ichika and Lingyan exchanged powerful attacks. Unfortunately, Ichika's shield ran out of energy, and Lingyan seized the opportunity to strike. She threw her spear and fired at him. After the match, Ichika felt frustrated because victory had been so close. He realized he needed to work on managing his energy better. Suddenly, a girl covered his eyes from behind and playfully asked him to guess who she was. Ichika couldn't figure it out. Even after she revealed her face, he still didn't recognize her name. Before leaving, the girl reminded him to hurry to class so he wouldn't get scolded by Shifuyu. Ichika rushed to class, but still arrived late. When asked why, he explained that he had been talking to a girl he didn't know. Shifuyu scolded him, accusing him of prioritizing chatting with a girl over being on time. Ichika denied it, but Shifuyu immediately told Charlotte to deal with him. Charlotte activated her Infinite Stratos and sent a few light attacks his way as a playful punishment. Later that day, Ichika attended a school assembly where the student council president was scheduled to give a speech. To his surprise, the girl he met that morning turned out to be the president. She introduced herself to the new students as Tatanashi, explaining that she had been too busy earlier in the year to greet them properly. Ichika was stunned by the coincidence, and Thabana gave him a mischievous smile. As part of the upcoming school festival, Tatanashi encouraged each class to decide on an activity together. After the assembly, Class 1-1 gathered to discuss ideas. Some of the more playful suggestions included a guest welcoming club, a Pocky game, a Twister challenge, or a King's game, all involving Ichika. He immediately rejected those ideas, thinking nobody would actually want to do them. But to his shock, the girls were excited about them, joking that Ichika belonged to all of them, and that his job was to entertain the group. Ichika asked Maya to reject those kinds of ideas, but Maya surprised him by supporting the Pocky game suggestion. Wanting something more normal, Ichika was relieved when Laura proposed a maid cafe instead. She pointed out that a maid cafe could even help cover their expenses. Charlotte agreed with the idea and teased Ichika, wondering if he would be a server or the cook. The class eventually decided on the maid cafe, and everyone agreed Ichika should be one of the servers. By 4 p.m., Ichika headed off to his training session. On his way, Tatanashi called out to him. Because of an urgent situation, she had been assigned as Ichika's new Infinite Stratos trainer. Ichika was surprised, wondering why a sudden change was needed when there were already plenty of trainers. Tatanashi calmly explained that Ichika was still too weak and that she intended to make him stronger. Ichika protested, but Tatanashi insisted and even called him very weak, which only made him more determined to prove her wrong. He challenged her to a match, agreeing that if he lost, he would follow any instructions she gave. Tatanashi accepted with a confident smile. They met in the dojo for their duel. Tadashi explained the rules. If Ichika managed to knock her down even once, he would win, but if he couldn't continue the fight, she would be the victor. Ichika warned her not to underestimate him, while Tadashi confidently declared she would win. The match began and Tadashi invited him to attack however he liked. Ichika charged forward, but she effortlessly threw him to the ground. He tried again and again, only to be defeated each time. It became clear that the role of student council president carried more than just a title. Tadashi was truly one of the strongest fighters in the school. Despite repeated failures, Ichika refused to give up, earning Tadashi's admiration for his persistence. In one attempt, he grabbed her by the shirt to gain leverage, but in the scramble, he accidentally tugged it loose. Shocked and flustered, he quickly let go and apologized. Tadashi teased him, joking that he owed her for catching a glimpse of something he shouldn't have seen. Before Ichika could react, she delivered a playful but firm punch, ending the match with her clear victory. That afternoon, Laura walked around looking for Ichika. She called Ichika a failed wife as she stared at her reflection, wondering if maybe he was avoiding her. While she was thinking about it, Laura noticed Eriko laughing with one of her friends. Eriko's friend pointed out that the back of her hair looked messy, which surprised Eriko. She admitted that she had woken up late and didn't have time to fix it. Her friend reminded her to keep her appearance in check so Ichika wouldn't dislike her. Hearing that, Laura immediately checked her own reflection and was shocked to see that her hair was also a bit untidy. She quickly tried to fix the back of her hair, but it was so hard to manage that she had to keep trying over and over. Chifuyu, who noticed what Laura was doing, was surprised and teased her by calling her a typical teenager. Laura tried to explain herself to her instructor, but Chifuyu lightly tapped Laura's head with a book to remind her not to call her instructor while they were in that place. Chifuyu then told Laura that Ichika was currently in front of the student infirmary inside the club building. Hearing this, Laura was startled and immediately rushed over there. Meanwhile, Ichika was having a dream where he was running toward a certain place. There he saw a girl standing and waiting for him. Their eyes met and Ichika was captivated by the girl in front of him. When he woke up, Tadashi greeted him and Ichika was shocked to realize that his head was resting on her lap. He asked what she was doing and Tadashi casually said she was just letting him rest there. She even playfully pressed his head back onto her lap and Ichika couldn't break free. Suddenly, Laura arrived and saw how close they were, which made her upset. Tadashi only smiled as if teasing her. Frustrated, Laura shouted about eliminating her target, activated the weapon on her arm, and charged toward Ichika. He was so startled that he couldn't react in time, but Tadashi easily blocked the attack. She stopped Laura, who had nearly reached Ichika. Laura then powered down her weapon. Tadashi said she appreciated Laura's honesty about her feelings. After that, Tadashi turned back to Ichika and invited him to start their training, leaving Laura standing in silence with nothing else she could do. At the same time, Charlotte and Cecilia were warming up before their own training session. Charlotte spotted Ichika approaching and mentioned it to Cecilia, who was surprised since she thought Ichika was supposed to be training with Laura in Arena 4 that day. Tadashi and Ichika walked up to them and Tadashi explained that from now on, she would be Ichika's personal trainer. Both Charlotte and Cecilia were confused about why Tadashi was suddenly in charge of his training. Ichika explained that it was the result of their previous match, so he had to accept Tadashi as his coach. Tadashi then wrapped an arm around Ichika and said she was doing all of this for him. She also mentioned that she needed Charlotte and Cecilia's help. She asked them to perform the shooter flow maneuver in the circle rondo formation. Charlotte and Cecilia immediately activated their Infinite Stratos units, lifted into the air and began flying in circles while firing at each other. Ichika watched carefully from the ground as Tadashi explained that they were shooting while controlling their units at the same time, meaning they had to stay focused to aim accurately while dodging incoming attacks. As she spoke, Tadashi suddenly leaned close and whispered something into Ichika's ear, which startled him. Charlotte and Cecilia, distracted by what they saw, lost their focus and fell to the ground. Next, it was Ichika's turn to try. He and Cecilia flew in circles and Ichika quickly realized that it felt different than he had expected. He began firing at Cecilia, but she dodged every shot with ease. When Cecilia returned fire, Ichika failed to dodge and ended up crashing to the ground. Cecilia rushed over to check on him, but Ichika assured her he was fine and asked her to continue. Though hesitant, Cecilia agreed and they both took to the air again. Charlotte then asked whether Ichika's difficulty was because of the long-range system installed on his Byakushiki unit. Tadashi confirmed it but explained that it wasn't the only reason. The weapon Ichika was using couldn't fire rapidly and functioned more like a sniper rifle. This meant that each shot capable of breaking through a shield was critical. Unfortunately, because of Ichika's current skill level, he was forced to rely on close-range combat instead. Even so, Ichika continued to struggle and failed to land a hit on Cecilia. After finishing his training, Ichika went straight to his room to rest, but he was shocked when he found Tatanashi waiting for him inside wearing a revealing outfit. Surprised, Ichika even stepped back outside to make sure he hadn't entered the wrong room. Tatanashi kept teasing him, and Ichika quickly went back inside and closed the door. He couldn't figure out what she was trying to do. Tatanashi was surprised to see Ichika looking so annoyed. She explained that she only wanted to get closer to him because she was his personal trainer. Tatanashi then showed off the bikini she was wearing, which made Ichika instantly flustered. She found his awkward reaction amusing. Just then, Hoki arrived carrying some food for Ichika. When she knocked on the door, Ichika quickly told her not to come in. Curious about what he was doing, Hoki grew suspicious and assumed he was hiding something. Irritated, she pushed the door open and stepped inside. To her surprise, she found Ichika together with another girl. Hoki was shocked, thinking Ichika had secretly brought someone into his room and was doing something inappropriate. Upset, Hoki drew her sword toward Ichika, but he tried to explain that it was all a misunderstanding. Thankfully, Tatanashi reacted quickly, blocking Hoki's strike and even managing to disarm her. The next day, Ichika resumed training and performed a spinning move in midair. Tatanashi instructed him to adjust his center of gravity, which was still off. Her words reminded Ichika of Hoki's advice not to underestimate people who were more experienced than him. Ichika's speed started to improve, and Tatanashi told him to activate the ignition boost. She then explained that he needed to switch from the rotating shooter flow maneuver to a straight-line movement, pass through the enemy in a single motion, and then fire from outside their range. Ichika admitted he wasn't confident about doing it all at once, but Tatanashi insisted that he try. Reluctantly, Ichika attempted the move, but he lost control and crashed to the ground. Tatanashi quickly ran to him as he winced in pain. She reminded him not to hold back the shooter flow while moving, but Ichika still struggled to get it right. Tatanashi encouraged him to keep it in mind and asked him to try again. After training, Ichika joined his friends in the cafeteria. He looked completely exhausted and stayed quiet, which made everyone worry about him. Charlotte offered him a drink, but he refused. Laura asked about Tatanashi, and Ichika explained that she was busy with student council work. Lingyan pointed out that Ichika had always been drawn to challenges, but in her opinion, Tatanashi shouldn't have pushed him to the point of such extreme fatigue. Ichika admitted that he deserved the tough training because, as Tatanashi had said, he was still weak, and that was why he had to master the technique as soon as possible. Charlotte commented that a guy who works that hard is really admirable, and Hoki agreed, saying that Ichika was already doing an impressive job. Cecilia even offered Ichika a place to stay in her room if he ever felt uncomfortable in his own. Annoyed by Cecilia's suggestion, Lingyan whispered to Ichika to visit her room instead and play cards with her. Not wanting to be left out, Laura also invited him to play cards in her room. Hoki quickly jumped in, offering to play Hanaruda, while Cecilia added that he could try tarot cards with her. Charlotte gently reminded everyone to stop arguing, pointing out that Ichika had already fallen fast asleep. They all turned their eyes to Ichika's tired face, realizing just how hard he had been pushing himself in training. Late at night, Ichika was brushing his teeth when he suddenly heard a girl's voice calling to him from inside his room. Curious, he went to check and was startled to find Tatanashi lying on his bed wearing a surprisingly revealing outfit. His heart raced and he quickly retreated back to the bathroom with his face turning bright red after seeing her like that. Tatanashi casually asked why he was acting so nervous. Flustered, Ichika shouted from behind the door, asking her to dress properly. Tatanashi insisted that her outfit was perfectly fine, but Ichika begged her to at least put on some pants. When she tried to open the bathroom door, Ichika held it shut, refusing to let her in. Tatanashi playfully called out, asking Ichika to give her a nice shoulder massage to help her relax before the school festival the next day. Ichika hesitated, worried that the situation might become awkward if he agreed. Tatanashi teased that she might have to force the door open if he kept hiding. Still, Ichika refused to unlock it. Eventually, Tatanashi used a small gadget from her equipment to break the lock. The door swung open, surprising Ichika so much that he stumbled backward. Tatanashi lost her balance as well and accidentally landed on top of him. Laughing it off, she reminded him again about the massage. With no way to escape the situation, Ichika reluctantly gave in and helped her loosen her stiff shoulders, keeping the interaction as polite as possible. The next morning, the long-awaited school festival finally began. Charlotte wore a classic maid outfit and greeted visitors with a warm smile, while Ichika dressed as a butler and helped guide guests into the maid cafe. The visitors lined up excitedly, many of them thrilled to see Ichika in his butler uniform and eager to take photos with him. Not long after, Lingyan arrived wearing a traditional Chinese dress and asked Ichika to escort her to a table. Ichika was surprised by her outfit, and Lingyan explained that her class, 1-2, was running a Chinese-themed cafe, so she had no choice but to dress the part. Ichika complimented her hairstyle, saying it looked different from usual and suited her perfectly. Lingyan blushed at the compliment but tried to hide her reaction, urging him to hurry and show her to her seat. Her face grew even redder when Ichika jokingly referred to her as princess. After handing her the menu, Ichika invited Lingyan to place an order. While reading it, she noticed a special set called Service for your server and asked what it meant. Trying to avoid an awkward explanation, Ichika recommended the popular cake set instead, but Lingyan became curious and decided to order the mysterious special anyway. A few minutes later, Ichika returned with a drink and a box of Pocky sticks and unexpectedly sat down beside her. Lingyan, confused, asked why he was sitting next to her. Ichika explained that the set involved a playful snack-feeding service. Lingyan was surprised by the concept and asked why a customer would need to feed the server. Ichika admitted he wasn't exactly comfortable with it himself and assured her it was perfectly fine if she wanted to skip it. Lingyan's cheeks turned pink as she shyly agreed to go along. She carefully offered a Pocky stick to Ichika, who accepted it, and then she asked him to return the favor. Before anything else could happen, Haoki suddenly stepped in and reminded them that the cafe's regular service did not actually include that kind of activity. Lingyan pouted in mild embarrassment and quickly munched on the snack herself. Ichika, watching her eat, remarked that she looked adorable. Startled by the unexpected compliment, Lingyan began coughing and quickly drank her beverage. She asked why he would suddenly say something like that, and Ichika explained that the way she nibbled the snack reminded him of a cute little squirrel. Flustered, Lingyan gave him a light smack on the head and hurried off, leaving Ichika confused about why she seemed upset. Not long after, a woman approached Ichika, asking for a moment of his time. She introduced herself as Reiko and explained that she wanted to offer new equipment upgrades for Byakashiki, Ichika's personal unit. Ichika politely said he wasn't interested for now, but Reiko enthusiastically grabbed his hand and mentioned a special deal that included an additional thruster and a bonus lead blade if he ordered on the spot. Before the situation could become uncomfortable, Shizune quickly stepped in, reminding Reiko that other customers were waiting. Reiko reluctantly backed off, and Ichika thanked Shizune for helping him out. He mentioned that many people had been approaching him lately with similar equipment offers. Shizune agreed it must be exhausting and suggested that Ichika take a break to enjoy the festival. She gave him an hour and a half of free time. As soon as they heard this, Cecilia excitedly wrapped her arm around Ichika and declared that she would accompany him. Almost immediately, Charlotte, Haoki, and Laura also expressed their desire to join. To prevent everyone from leaving their posts, Shizune suggested settling it with a quick game of rock, paper, scissors. Cecilia managed to win the drawing, which meant she was the one who got to accompany Ichika on a walk around the school festival. They stopped by a booth featuring brass instruments, and Ichika decided to give one a try. To Cecilia's surprise, he turned out to be pretty good at playing it. Someone even invited him to join the music club, but he politely turned the offer down and asked if Cecilia might be interested instead. Cecilia admitted that she had never played a brass instrument before. Ichika found that unexpected, since she gave off the refined aura of someone who would be great at it. Hearing Ichika call her a noble lady made Cecilia blush. Ichika then handed her the instrument, encouraging her to try it out. Cecilia's face turned bright red because sharing the mouthpiece felt a bit too personal, almost like an indirect kiss from Ichika. Just as she was about to give it a try, the staff suddenly came over and explained that the mouthpiece had to be swapped out for a clean one. Cecilia felt a pang of disappointment, realizing she had lost that tiny, silly chance for a special moment with him. When they returned to the maid cafe, Ichika was surprised to see Tatanashi wearing a maid uniform. Tatanashi quickly asked for his help with an entertainment segment, a live interactive action drama. Without giving him much time to think, she pulled him into the dressing room and handed him a costume along with a crown, telling him to get ready to go on stage. Ichika protested that he hadn't read the script at all, but Tatanashi assured him that he didn't need to worry because he could just improvise, and she would guide him as needed. She encouraged him to simply have fun and do his best. The performance soon began. The play turned out to be a wild reinterpretation of the Cinderella story. Ichika stood on stage looking completely lost as slides projected onto the backdrop explained the plot. This version of Cinderella wasn't just about a simple rival. Instead, the Cinderellas were fierce fighters who had survived many battles, making them worthy of the title. Ichika was stunned by how intense the story sounded. According to the narration, anyone who wanted to uncover the secret hidden inside the prince's crown would have to fight for it. The chaos started with the dramatic entrance of a battle-hungry Cinderella. Lingyan suddenly dropped down from above, demanding that Ichika hand over the crown on his head. She threw prop knives in his direction, startling him because they looked dangerous, though Tanahashi quickly announced that everything on stage was safe. Ichika ran for cover, trying to block Lingyan's attacks, but she proved to be incredibly strong and even showed off some powerful kicks. Ichika nervously reminded her that she was wearing glass slippers, but Lingyan didn't seem concerned, saying that the slippers were tougher than they looked. Lingyan kept up her relentless assault while Ichika dodged frantically, completely baffled by how extreme this so-called play was getting. Suddenly, shots from a mock sniper rifle rained down on him. Ichika sprinted across the stage to avoid the fire, confused about what was happening. Above him, Cecilia had taken position as a sharpshooter. Tadanashi, acting as the narrator, revealed to all the girls that whoever managed to claim the crown from Ichika would earn the special reward of sharing a room with him. Charlotte hesitated, questioning whether something like that was even allowed, but Tadanashi used her authority as student council president to declare it an official rule of the game. Cecilia grew confident that she could win, taking careful aim at Ichika with her rifle. Luckily, her shot missed. A moment later, Charlotte waved at Ichika and rushed to his aid. Using her bow and arrows, she fired at Cecilia to create an opening. Ichika was surprised by Charlotte's support. She urged him to keep running because the other girls were closing in. Before Ichika left, Charlotte asked him to hand over the crown for safekeeping. Ichika agreed, but just as he reached up to remove it, Tadanashi dramatically announced that for a prince, the crown represented the kingdom itself. If the prince dared to give up the crown, which contained important data, he would face a penalty. Right on cue, Ichika was jolted by a harmless electric shock. Tadanashi then questioned how much loyalty the prince truly had to his kingdom. Ichika finally understood the twist of the performance and apologized to Charlotte for not being able to give her the crown. Soon after, Cecilia and Lingyan caught up with him and launched a combined attack using their stage weapons. Ichika raised a glass-like shield to protect himself while holding Charlotte close. Cecilia and Lingyan were clearly unhappy with their closeness and continued their playful assault until the shield finally shattered, causing Charlotte to fall. When Charlotte regained consciousness, Ichika was nowhere to be seen. At that time, Ichika woke up in a dark and cramped place, completely unsure of where he was. As he tried to reach out for something to steady himself, his hand accidentally rested on something soft. To his surprise, he realized he was underneath Charlotte. Startled by the unexpected touch, Charlotte quickly woke up as well. She never imagined Ichika would end up beneath her skirt like that. Not long after, bullets were suddenly fired in Ichika's direction. Realizing the danger, he immediately ran off, leaving Charlotte behind. He climbed a tall staircase, and when he finally reached the top, he found Laura waiting for him, ready to take the crown he was wearing. Laura attacked Ichika with her twin knives, and he admitted that the situation was incredibly dangerous for him. Laura demanded that he hand over the crown if he truly considered himself her husband. At that moment, Tadanashi started to feel bored with the whole scene and launched an aerial strike toward Ichika. Without hesitation, he leaped forward to shield Laura, carrying her away from the tower as they escaped by swinging on a rope. Laura was deeply moved by Ichika's willingness to risk himself for her. After making sure she was safe, Ichika quickly left the area. He hid behind a wall, but before long, Haoki called out to him and urged him to climb up another tower, where she said it would be safer. As they made their way up the stairs, Haoki warned him not to look up. A sudden strong gust of wind blew, causing her dress to flutter open. Ichika accidentally glanced upward, and Haoki, flustered and annoyed, gave him a sharp kick. When they finally reached the top, Haoki asked Ichika to hand over the crown. He was shocked to realize that Haoki too was after it, just like the others. Tadanashi was not about to let them go so easily and sent a massive boulder rolling in their direction. Ichika and Haoki grabbed each other's hands and ran for their lives, dodging the dangerous obstacle. Relieved to have escaped, Ichika barely had a moment to breathe when Haoki demanded he remove his hand from her chest, which he hadn't even realized was there in the panic. Confused, Ichika wondered why everyone was so determined to claim the crown. Haoki began to explain, but before she could finish, Laura suddenly appeared and attacked. Haoki quickly blocked Laura's knives with her sword. Ichika tried to stop them, but the two refused to back down, each determined to defeat the other. Their intense clash caused their dresses to tear slightly, which left Ichika startled and both girls embarrassed. Haoki, feeling flustered, turned her frustration toward Ichika and raised her sword, but Laura deflected it, unwilling to let him be harmed. Suddenly, the gates burst open, revealing that Tadanashi had intentionally unlocked them so the other girls could join the competition for Ichika's crown. One after another, the girls charged forward, calling out to Ichika and inviting him to live happily with them. Seeing the overwhelming crowd, Ichika bolted to save himself. While he was running, a hand suddenly grabbed him and pulled him into an underground chamber. It was Reiko, who had seized the chance to confront him. She intended to take Byakushiki from Ichika and immediately kicked him down to gain the upper hand. Surprised, Ichika demanded to know who she really was. Reiko revealed that she was the mysterious beauty who had disguised herself as a company sales representative. Without wasting any time, she revealed her true form. Feeling threatened, Ichika activated Byakushiki. Reiko, who had been waiting for this moment, prepared herself as the two of them stood ready for battle. Ichika activated Byakushiki to face Reiko, who immediately launched her attack. Ichika managed to dodge it, which made Reiko admit that he was more skilled than she had expected. Ichika already knew that Reiko came from the Mitsurugi family, but he was surprised that she used the last name Makigami. Reiko explained that she had to use the Makigami name out of necessity. Without warning, Reiko set off an explosion in the area and activated her Infinite Stratos, Araction, a spider-shaped unit equipped with deadly poison. She kept firing at Ichika while laughing, and with the many arms and legs of her unit, her attacks overwhelmed him. Ichika could not understand why Reiko was attacking. Reiko responded by asking if Ichika still had no idea about the situation. She then toppled a nearby locker toward him, but Ichika quickly aimed his weapon, forcing Reiko to dodge and cling to the wall. Still laughing, Reiko revealed that she belonged to a dangerous organization. She asked if Ichika had ever heard of Lady Autumn from the secret group known as Phantom Task. Ichika had no idea what she was talking about. Reiko said that if he truly did not know, then she would tell him everything before finishing him off. She kept firing, but Ichika skillfully avoided the shots. He leaped upward and brought his weapon down from above, but Reiko easily predicted his move and blocked the strike. Ichika attacked again, but Reiko countered every attempt. With her many limbs and strong armor, defeating her seemed nearly impossible. Ichika dove beneath her and swung his sword upward, finally landing a hit. He tried to press the advantage, but Reiko struck back and cornered him, unleashing a barrage of shots that drained his shield energy. Ichika quickly broke free and attacked again, earning more praise from Reiko, who continued her relentless assault. At that moment, Maya saw on the monitor that an unknown Infinite Stratos was fighting Ichika inside the changing room and immediately reported it to Chifuyu. Chifuyu had suspected that enemies might appear during the school festival, but had not expected only one to show up. She instructed Maya to keep monitoring for enemy reinforcements and ordered the students to begin evacuation. Meanwhile, Cecilia and the others were searching for Ichika. Laura blamed her teammates for interfering with matters involving him. Cecilia criticized Charlotte for trying to protect Ichika. Suddenly, an emergency announcement informed all students that an unidentified Infinite Stratos was battling Ichika in the changing room. Everyone was shocked by the news. Maya called for all students with their own Infinite Stratos units to activate and deploy. The girls immediately powered up their units. Chifuyu ordered Cecilia and Lingyan to patrol the school perimeter while instructing Charlotte, Laura, and Haoki to assist Ichika in the changing room. They rushed to the scene without hesitation. Inside, Reiko continued firing at Ichika. He realized that his dodging movements matched the training he had practiced before and remembered the lessons Tat Anashi had taught him. He immediately put those techniques into action. Reiko kept shooting until she eventually ran out of ammunition. Seizing the chance, Ichika used his ignition boost, but Reiko quickly ensnared him in her spider webs. Bound tightly, Ichika struggled as Reiko toyed with him like it was a game. Reiko attached a device to Ichika, intending to take control of Byakushiki. Ichika cried out in pain as she revealed that Phantom Task was the organization responsible for kidnapping him during the second Mondo Grosso. She mockingly called their encounter a touching reunion. Memories of his past abduction and Chifuyu rescuing him flashed through Ichika's mind. He tried to break free but was powerless. Reiko declared that once she eliminated him, her mission would be complete. Suddenly, Takanashi appeared and warned that if Reiko harmed Ichika, it would become her problem because Ichika was someone she deeply cared about. Reiko was shocked that Takanashi had entered despite the area being locked down. Takanashi calmly explained that there was a reason she had become the student council president. Frustrated, Reiko attacked, and to Ichika's horror, she managed to overpower Takanashi. Elsewhere, Cecilia and Lingyan were patrolling when they detected a high-speed Infinite Stratos heading their way. Chifuyu instructed them to stay alert and not let it escape their watch. Moments later, the fast-moving unit approached. Cecilia was stunned to see that it was Blue Tear's Q known as Silent Zephyrus. Lingyan immediately opened fire and called for Charlotte to join in. After a moment of hesitation, Charlotte began shooting as well, but Silent Zephyrus easily deflected their attacks. Lingyan was surprised at how effortlessly Silent Zephyrus blocked their strikes. Cecilia fired 2 powerful cannon blasts, but Silent Zephyrus destroyed them with its flexible Blue Tear's weaponry. Cecilia was shocked, knowing that she was supposed to have the highest compatibility with the Blue Tear's system. Silent Zephyrus then unleashed a rain of attacks before flying straight toward the Infinite Stratos Academy. Meanwhile, the wounded Tatsunashi showed no reaction at all, and to everyone's surprise, she suddenly turned into water. Reiko did not expect that to happen. The real Tatsunashi appeared and revealed that the one earlier was only a decoy. Tatsunashi immediately launched an attack on Reiko and managed to land a hit. Tatsunashi realized she might have underestimated Reiko because Reiko's infinite Stratos was faster than she thought. Reiko refused to accept the strike and glared at her opponent. Tatsunashi calmly introduced herself and explained that her infinite Stratos was called Mysterious Lady. Reiko grew even more irritated and fired a powerful shot intending to defeat her. However, Tatsunashi easily blocked the attack with her shield made of water. Reiko, frustrated that her long-range attacks were useless, rushed in to fight at close range. Tatsunashi warned her that such attacks would never break through her water defenses. Reiko suspected that the water Tatsunashi controlled was not ordinary, and Tatsunashi admitted Reiko's observation was correct. The water was in fact enhanced with nanomachines powered by infinite Stratos energy. Tatsunashi then asked if Reiko knew that the student council president at the Infinite Stratos Academy was considered the strongest. Reiko did not care and immediately went on the offensive again, managing to corner Tatsunashi. Reiko laughed at her and unleashed a relentless series of strikes while Ichika watched with deep concern for Tatsunashi's safety. Emerging from the smoke of an explosion, Tatsunashi told Ichika to lead the fight to her. Annoyed, Reiko demanded that Tatsunashi stop acting so confident. Reiko quickly grabbed Tatsunashi, threw her aside, and trapped her with her spiderweb threads, preparing a finishing attack. Tatsunashi only smiled and asked if Reiko could feel how warm the room had become. Reiko was confused by the question. Tatsunashi clarified that she was not talking about temperature alone, but about the stifling humidity. Mist could slip inside armor and affect the pilot. Realizing too late what had happened, Reiko began to panic. Tatsunashi enjoyed the look on Reiko's face when she finally understood that her plan had failed. With a simple snap of her fingers, Tatsunashi defeated Reiko. Tatsunashi explained that Mysterious Lady, also known as the Lady of Mist, could control water through nanomachines that radiated energy. Reiko's strength faded, yet she still refused to accept defeat. Tatsunashi declared the battle over and gave Ichika the signal to unleash his full-power Yukira Nagata attack. Ichika swung his sword toward Reiko and pushed her back. Reiko quickly retreated, but Tatsunashi urged Ichika to chase her. Outside, Ichika tried to strike again, but suddenly Silent Zephyrus, another Infinite Stratos unit, intercepted him. Shocked to see a new opponent, Ichika immediately pursued for a fight. Tatsunashi shouted for him to stop, but Ichika confronted the mysterious pilot and demanded to know their identity. Silent Zephyrus unleashed a rapid barrage of attacks that sent Ichika crashing down. Meanwhile, Maya and Shifuyu monitored the battle from their control room. Shifuyu was surprised that the enemy possessed such an advanced Infinite Stratos. As Reiko attempted to escape, Charlotte, Laura, and Haoki blocked her path to prevent her from fleeing. Ichika continued to hold his ground against Silent Zephyrus, but was stunned by the sheer power of the machine. His shield energy dropped dangerously low until it was nearly depleted, causing him to crash into a tower. Silent Zephyrus then launched a shot to stop Laura's attack on Reiko, frustrating Laura, who shouted in anger. Silent Zephyrus mocked the weakness of Germany's cutting-edge technology, surprising Laura with their knowledge. Shortly after, Squall contacted Silent Zephyrus, ordering a retreat. Silent Zephyrus called Reiko back, pointing out that they were outnumbered. Before leaving, Silent Zephyrus pulled Reiko out of her Infinite Stratos and planted an explosive inside the Arachian unit. The Arachian began moving toward Laura and the others. Ichika warned everyone to get back, but there was no time to escape before the explosion went off. When Ichika regained consciousness, he found himself and the others floating inside a protective sphere of water controlled by Tatsunashi. Ichika asked where their enemies had gone. Tatsunashi explained that they had escaped, leaving behind only destroyed armor and weapons. Ichika then awkwardly asked Tatsunashi to release him because her body was leaning against his in the water, making it hard for him to move. Tatsunashi teased him, calling him clumsy for getting stuck like that. Ichika quickly explained that it was an accident, which only made Tatsunashi laugh more. With a playful smile, she remarked that he always had excuses. Feeling embarrassed, Ichika admitted that being pressed against her armor felt surprisingly soft. Tatsunashi simply grinned and teased him again, enjoying his flustered reaction. Meanwhile, Maya and Shifuyu were busy identifying the two Infinite Stratos units that had attacked them. The one that was destroyed turned out to be Arachian, while the second was Blue Tears U, a new model called Silent Zephyrus that had just been stolen from England. Both enemies claimed to be members of Phantom Task, and it seemed that their next target was Byakushiki. Maya commented that there was still a lot they did not know about Byakushiki. It was revealed that Chifuyu had been the one who ordered Tatanashi to stay close to Ichika. Maya suspected that Chifuyu was deeply worried about Ichika and believed Chifuyu should have been the one to protect him directly, but Chifuyu denied it and said that it was Tatanashi's responsibility. At the same time, Reiko scolded M, the pilot of the Silent Zephyrus, because she disliked the fact that M had stepped in to help her. Reiko grew upset and moved as if she might attack M, but Squall arrived in time to stop them. Squall calmly asked Reiko to let go of her anger. After that, M walked away, thinking that everything that had just happened was completely ridiculous. Squall then instructed M to run a full check on the Silent Zephyrus since the unit still needed fine-tuning, and left to carry out the order, retreating to her room. Alone, she quietly muttered that she would soon take her revenge. She expressed a strong desire to see Chifuyu again and even kept a photo of Chifuyu inside a locket she wore around her neck. Later that night, Tatanashi explained to Ichiko why she had to stay near him. She told him that her mission was to protect him from enemies who wanted to harm him and that her family was well known for handling assignments like this. Since the situation had calmed down, Tatanashi mentioned that she planned to rest soon. She apologized if her presence felt a little too close and asked if Ichika would feel lonely without her around. Ichika grew nervous and struggled to answer her question. Tatanashi then showed him a crown she had earned and explained that whoever claimed that crown would become Ichika's new roommate. Ichika was surprised because he had not heard anything about this arrangement. Tatanashi smiled and said that she had already informed the other girls about it. Ichika wondered what she was really planning, but Tatanashi simply said it did not matter because what truly counted was that she had won the crown, which gave her the right to share a room with him. As Tatanashi leaned a little closer, Ichika became even more flustered. That night, they ended up staying in the same room, and Tatanashi wished Ichika a gentle good night. One night, Ichika was asked by Maya to deliver some books to a certain room inside the Infinite Stratos Academy. Maya even gave him a map to help him find the place. Ichika walked through the long hallways, noticing how the security cameras followed his every step. He realized for the first time that the Infinite Stratos Academy was much bigger than he had imagined. At that moment, a monitor showed Ichika's movement as he passed Charlotte's location and headed toward the room marked on the map. When he finally arrived at the door labeled M38, Ichika opened it and called out for Maya, but there was no response. Wondering if he had entered the wrong room, he checked the map again. Suddenly, the door closed by itself. Without warning, someone grabbed him from behind. Startled, Ichika instinctively tried to throw the person off, but more people quickly joined in. They restrained him and covered his head before he could fight back. Ichika woke up tied to a chair, confused and unable to understand what was happening. A voice greeted him, and he asked who was there. When the lights turned on, he found himself facing a small stage decorated as if for an event. A sign on the stage read, "Let's cheer up, Ichika." Maya, dressed in a playful cow-themed costume, stepped forward as the host. She announced that the only rule of the event was simple. Whoever could entertain Ichika the most would be the winner. Maya then opened the event with a cheerful smile, while Ichika struggled against the ropes and asked what was going on. With a slightly embarrassed expression, Maya explained that this was a secret surprise activity. The first contestant to be introduced was Haoki. The stage lights changed to reveal a peaceful countryside background with a traditional Japanese house. Soon, Haoki appeared wearing a beautiful kimono with fox ears and a fluffy tail, giving her a charming and slightly playful look. Ichika couldn't help but admire her appearance. Haoki's face turned red when Ichika called her name. She asked him not to stare too much and invited him to come up on stage so she could serve him tea as part of her performance. Ichika sat across from Haoki, carefully observing the details of her fox-themed outfit. Curious, he asked about her costume, and Haoki explained that it was meant to represent a fox warrior. As Haoki playfully moved the fox ears on her head, Ichika admitted that they looked soft and interesting. Haoki shyly asked him not to look at her so intensely. While pouring tea for Ichika, their hands accidentally touched, causing Haoki to spill a little tea on his pants. Embarrassed, she quickly apologized and offered tissues to help clean the spot. Ichika assured her that it was fine and not too hot. Haoki admitted that she felt nervous because it was her first time wearing such an outfit and performing like this. Their eyes accidentally met at a very close distance, making both of them freeze for a brief, awkward moment. Just then, Maya struck a gong to signal that Haoki's time was up. Haoki looked surprised that the time had passed so quickly. Maya reminded everyone that the other contestants were waiting for their turn. Haoki apologized again for the spill, while Ichika reassured her with a kind smile and said the tea was delicious. Before stepping off the stage, Haoki allowed Ichika to lightly touch the soft fox ears, which made her blush but also smile. The room went dark again and Ichika could hear some movement and excited whispers. When the lights came back on, Cecilia appeared, this time wearing a stylish bunny-themed outfit with a billiards table set up beside her. With a confident smile, Cecilia announced that she wanted to give Ichika a first-class performance. Ichika, still puzzled, asked what was really happening, but Cecilia simply said it was a secret. Cecilia invited Ichika to play billiards with her. When Ichika admitted he had never played before, she kindly offered to teach him. After setting up the balls, Cecilia demonstrated how to hold the cue stick and aim at the target ball. Her movements were smooth and precise as she explained the rules, telling Ichika to start by hitting the balls in order from the lowest number. One by one, Cecilia skillfully sank the balls into the pockets, impressing Ichika with her talent. Meanwhile, Haoki looked bored as she watched how close they were getting. It was Ichika's turn to shoot the ball into the pocket, but he hesitated when he was about to take the shot. Cecilia stepped closer and wrapped her arms around him from behind. Her face turned red as she gently told him not to be so tense. She held his hands to help guide his aim, leaning close against his back. Ichika trembled a little and asked Cecilia not to stand so close. Cecilia softly whispered that he needed to stay focused. Of course, it was hard for Ichika to concentrate with Cecilia hugging him that tightly. Seeing this, Haoki grew annoyed and said Cecilia was going too far. Ichika finally took the shot and managed to sink the ball into the pocket. Both Ichika and Cecilia were thrilled, and just then Maya struck the gong to signal that the time was up. Cecilia held onto Ichika's arm and praised his skill. Ichika replied that it was all thanks to Cecilia for teaching him, and even said they should play billiards again sometime. Cecilia's face lit up with excitement when she heard that. Suddenly, the lights went out and then flickered back on. Ichika realized it was the elevator, and the third participant was Charlotte. She arrived wearing a striking costume that caught everyone's attention. Charlotte greeted Ichika and asked if he was having fun. Ichika was surprised to see her there and asked about the outfit she was wearing. Charlotte explained that it was a French poodle costume. She playfully moved the poodle ears and even showed off the fluffy tail. Ichika was taken aback by the sight. Meanwhile, Cecilia brought a heart-shaped cake for Ichika, and both Haoki and Cecilia watched silently from the side. The cake looked delicious and made Ichika feel hungry. Charlotte offered to feed Ichika a piece of cake and asked him to close his eyes and open his mouth. When Ichika did as she said, Charlotte took a small bite first and then held the cake out for him. Her blushing face slowly moved closer to his. Haoki and Cecilia let out startled cries, which made Ichika open his eyes in shock. He found Charlotte's face right in front of his. Startled, the cake slipped and accidentally landed on Charlotte's chest. Both of them froze, embarrassed by the awkward situation, while Haoki and Cecilia were equally surprised. Charlotte, flustered, shyly asked if Ichika still wanted the piece of cake. Ichika, completely caught off guard, didn't know how to respond. Just then, Maya blew her whistle and called it a violation for crossing the event's boundaries, resulting in Charlotte's disqualification. Charlotte was shocked by this sudden decision. Meanwhile, Lingyan was backstage, angrily tapping the monitor because she thought Ichika seemed too impressed by certain physical features. Suddenly, Laura approached her and asked for help zipping up her costume. Lingyan helped zip it and adjusted the headband with bunny ears that Laura was wearing. Once ready, Laura headed to the stage. Not long after, someone tapped Lingyan on the shoulder, surprising her. On stage, Laura introduced a game involving a machine filled with balloons. She was dressed in a black bunny outfit. Ichika asked what the equipment was for, and Laura explained that it was for a dart game, where anyone who hit the target could win a special prize. Laura threw a dart, and the machine released a prize ball containing a coupon for free meals in the school cafeteria for an entire week. Ichika was excited by the prize and took his turn. His dart hit the target perfectly. When the prize ball opened, it unexpectedly revealed one of Laura's personal swimsuits. Laura blushed and was confused about how that ended up inside. Maya explained that due to budget issues, some of the prizes were actually Laura's own belongings. Laura turned bright red but said Ichika could keep it if he really wanted. Before anything else could happen, the lights went out again even though it wasn't scheduled. Suddenly, someone called out and grabbed Ichika's hand, pulling him down. It turned out to be Tatanashi, who playfully spoke in a cat-like tone while teasing him. She leaned over him with a mischievous grin, commenting that it was no wonder so many girls liked him. Ichika, flustered and uncomfortable, quickly pushed her away. Tatanashi said she wanted to introduce him to another girl who was sweet and quiet. Her face moved closer to his, making Ichika nervous, and he asked her to let him go. Before things could get more awkward, the lights came back on and Lingyan rushed in, kicking at Tatanashi to stop her. Lingyan demanded that Tatanashi return the costume she was wearing. Tatanashi apologized, saying she was just having fun and wanted to join the event. She jokingly complained that the costume felt tight around the chest, which made Lingyan glare in irritation. Lingyan snapped, accusing Ichika of always staring at girls. Ichika looked confused, not understanding what she meant. Tatnanashi wrapped her arm around Ichika's and teasingly asked if it was true. Suddenly, a dart came flying and hit Ichika's clothes. It was Laura, glaring with an angry expression. Ichika quickly apologized and promised to explain everything. Meanwhile, Tatnanashi took the chance to slip away. Moments later, Maya called all the girls back to the stage, announcing that the final part of the event was about to begin. They quickly headed to the stage to watch the final event. To everyone's surprise, Shifuyu appeared wearing a maid costume while carrying ice cream. The girls were shocked to see her like that, and even Ichika never expected Shifuyu to join the event. Charlotte stopped Ichika from speaking and asked him to open his mouth so she could feed him a spoonful of ice cream. The stage event suddenly turned into a birthday celebration for Ichika. Only then did Ichika realize that it was actually his birthday. Everyone shouted together to wish him a happy birthday. Ichika said they really didn't need to go through all that trouble just for his birthday. Shifuyu explained that Ichika always forgot about his own birthday. It turned out they had planned the surprise so that he would have a wonderful memory of the day. According to Charlotte, Ichika's birthday was something truly important. Laura admitted that the costume contest was actually her aide's idea. Ichika felt overjoyed and thanked everyone sincerely. Haoki was relieved that Ichika liked the surprise, and Charlotte said that even though it was a little embarrassing, they had all given their best effort. Maya commented to Chifuyu that the event turned out great, but Chifuyu responded with her usual calm, almost expressionless manner. Ichika thanked Maya for guiding the whole event. He also admitted that he never imagined Chifuyu would wear a maid costume, and it had been a long time since he celebrated a birthday with her. Shifuyu, a bit embarrassed, acknowledged it, which made Ichika ask her to repeat it, just to be sure he heard it right. Maya then asked Ichika who made him the happiest that day. The question caught Ichika off guard, and all the girls eagerly waited for his answer. After thinking for a moment, Ichika said that it was probably Chifuyu who made him the happiest. The mood instantly shifted as the girls' expressions turned intimidating and sad after hearing his reply. Ichika had no idea why they reacted that way. Chifuyu could only remark that Ichika was truly clueless. The girls then shouted at Ichika in frustration and playfully ganged up on him in protest. Afterward, Ichika walked outside alone, still confused about why the girls were so upset. Even so, he felt genuinely happy about the day's events. Before long, he sensed someone following him from behind. When he turned around, he saw a girl staring sharply at him. She began to approach, and Ichika was startled to see that her face looked almost exactly like Chifuyu's. The girl denied being Chifuyu and introduced herself instead. She praised Ichika for his efforts the day before. Only then did Ichika realize that she was the pilot of the Silent Zephyrus. The girl introduced herself as Oromura Madoka and declared that, in order to remain true to herself, she would have to defeat him. Madoka then raised a gun and fired a shot in Ichika's direction. Madoka introduced herself to Ichika and immediately opened fire at him. Ichika quickly leaped aside to dodge her shots. Madoka fired again, clearly wanting to see how long he could hold out against her attack. Luckily, Laura managed to shield Ichika from the incoming bullets. Laura refused to let Madoka harm him. In response, Laura threw a knife toward Madoka, but Madoka swiftly deflected it. In an instant, Madoka activated her Infinite Stratos, the Silent Zephyrus, and took off into the air, unleashing a barrage of attacks aimed at both Laura and Ichika. Laura quickly activated her shield, but before they could counter, Madoka abruptly retreated. Ichika immediately asked if Laura was okay. Laura, however, insisted that he was the one who should be asked, that since he was clearly the target of the attack. She wondered if he knew why he kept being pursued. Ichika admitted he had no idea why enemies kept coming after him. Out of nowhere, he complimented Laura's eyes, which had been hidden before, saying they looked as beautiful as gemstones. Laura blushed, surprised by his calmness after such a sudden attack. She hadn't expected him to call her eyes beautiful, and her face lit up with a mix of surprise and happiness. Ichika felt lucky that Laura had arrived just in time to help him. Without thinking, Laura quietly confessed that she always tried to steal moments to be alone with him. Realizing what she had just said, she panicked and flustered, gave him a sudden punch that sent him stumbling backward. The next day, Charlotte asked Ichika to accompany her for the delivery of new Infinite Stratos equipment. Several countries had requested testing for their designs. Charlotte originally planned to invite the others as well, but Haoki, Cecilia, Lingian, and Laura all seemed busy, so she ended up asking only Ichika. Even though Ichika technically didn't mean to go, especially after recently being attacked, he didn't want Charlotte to handle everything by herself and gladly agreed to help. During the transport, a fire suddenly broke out on the ship. Security officers immediately rushed toward the source of the flames. Ichika was about to check it out, but Charlotte stopped him. Out of nowhere, the delivery truck arrived carrying 2 Infinite Stratos units. Ichika quickly noticed that neither of these suits carried any identification codes or country markings. Realizing the threat, he urged Charlotte to team up with him to confront the unknown pilots. As soon as Ichika and Charlotte took to the air, the 2 unmarked Infinite Stratos units opened fire on them. Charlotte tried to persuade them to surrender, but they refused and kept attacking. Ichika soon joined the fight, swinging his sword at their enemies. The enemy fire was relentless and fast, forcing Charlotte to push herself to dodge the constant barrage. She admitted that their opponents were stronger than expected. Meanwhile, Ichika worked to evade close-range attacks as one of the enemy units pulled back and launched a long-range strike at him. Before long, Charlotte successfully knocked one opponent back, sending it crashing down. She then turned to see Ichika still locked in combat with the other enemy. Ichika managed to bring the opponent down and capture it, urging the pilot to surrender. However, the second enemy fired at a nearby container, triggering a massive explosion. Acting quickly, Ichika leaped forward to shield Charlotte from the fiery blast, catching her in his arms as debris scattered around them. The next day at school, Ichika went about his routine as usual. Cecilia asked if he was okay. Lingyan scolded him for being careless, and Haoki warned him not to let his guard down. Ichika apologized for worrying everyone. Throughout the conversation, Charlotte quietly kept her eyes on him. Not long after the battle with the unidentified Infinite Stratos units, Ichika underwent a body scan conducted by Maya. She reported that his body was fine, but there was a quantum shift detected in Byakushiki, his personal unit. Maya then asked him to test it by summoning Yukihira, but to everyone's surprise, nothing happened when he tried. Shifuyu questioned Maya about the cause, but Maya admitted that they wouldn't know without further research. Shifuyu then requested that Ichika hand over Byakushiki for safety reasons. Ichika hesitated, concerned that Phantom Task might strike again at any moment. Shifuyu firmly reminded him that if Byakushiki couldn't be activated, he wouldn't be able to rely on it anyway. She warned him not to depend on an incomplete power, and wondered aloud if he might be afraid of fighting without Byakushiki. Ichika denied being afraid and calmly handed the unit over to her. Shifuyu worried about what might happen if the girls found out about this issue. Maya believed it was important for them to know, even if it caused a stir. Shifuyu groaned at the thought of the inevitable chaos. Charlotte, however, asked that the others not be told, declaring that she would personally protect Ichika. Charlotte made up her mind that she would always stay by his side to keep him safe. During class, Laura suddenly showed a fashion magazine featuring lingerie and asked Ichika to pick a design. Ichika was completely shocked, while Lingyan wondered why Laura would show something like that to him. Cecilia even told Ichika to close his eyes. Laura explained that she only wanted to know Ichika's taste, which she jokingly referred to as her future husband's preference. Everyone was surprised to hear Laura say that. Laura admitted that Clarissa had once told her that when a girl is in love, people often notice the kind of clothes she wears. Because of that, Clarissa suggested that Laura should choose something that Ichika might like. Laura thought that striped patterns might be the most popular with boys. Haoki took a look at the designs in the magazine and commented that some of them were actually stylish, while Lingyan agreed that the featured model looked well designed. Meanwhile, Cecilia secretly called her assistant to replace her own outfit with something a little fancier and more elegant. Ichika tried to avoid answering Laura's question, but Laura teased him, asking if he was embarrassed because her guess might have been right. She called Ichika straightforward for his reactions. Charlotte watched their antics with a quiet smile. Laura then asked Charlotte which design she personally liked from the magazine. Charlotte replied that it was not the kind of topic she could casually talk about in front of a boy. Just then, Charlotte felt something strange with her own clothing and quickly left the classroom. To her surprise, she realized that a part of her outfit seemed to have gone missing without explanation. She wondered if it might have something to do with her unit revived, just like what had happened before with Byakushiki. Blushing in confusion, she hurried back to her room to fix her clothes, but the strange problem kept happening even after she changed. Charlotte had no idea what to do. A knock on the door startled her. It was Ichika, reminding her that class was about to start. Charlotte stepped out, saying she had handled the situation even though she was still worried. Ichika grabbed her hand and urged her to walk faster since Chifuyu would be teaching that day. He pulled her along so quickly that they accidentally tripped, causing Ichika to fall against her by mistake. Both of them were startled, and Charlotte instinctively used her as arm to push him away in a burst of panic. She still couldn't figure out why these strange things kept happening. Later, during the lunch break at the cafeteria, Charlotte sat next to Haoki, still looking uneasy. Haoki noticed her discomfort and asked what was wrong, but Charlotte only mentioned that the seat felt unusually cold. In the afternoon, Charlotte joined Lingyan and Cecilia for a game of volleyball. When she jumped to hit the ball, she suddenly remembered her wardrobe issue and quickly pulled back, canceling her move. Later, Charlotte was asked to help carry some equipment, which made her feel even more self-conscious about her clothing problem. Ichika offered to help, but Charlotte, startled, almost dropped what she was carrying because she was afraid he might notice something. They ended up carrying the items together. Ichika commented that Charlotte was acting strangely and guessed that she might be worried about Byakushiki. Charlotte felt happy to help him despite her worries, and Ichika reminded her not to push herself too hard. Laura, who happened to see them, tried to greet Charlotte but paused when she noticed something unusual. She quickly called Clarissa to share her observation. Clarissa calmly explained that sometimes clothing can appear different depending on the lighting or viewing angle, which reassured Laura. Clarissa's friends praised her for knowing so much, joking that it might be because Charlotte liked Japanese cartoons and comics. Laura said she wouldn't lose her friend, while Clarissa admitted she felt a little jealous hearing Laura call Charlotte her friend. Clarissa hoped that Laura would never forget the Black Rabbit Squad, who were always there to support her. Charlotte and Ichika brought the equipment to the library, where Charlotte thanked him and told him to return to class ahead of her. Once Ichika left, Charlotte sighed with relief, glad that he hadn't noticed her ongoing problem. She worried that her IS-Unit Revive might also be malfunctioning and feared that if it were inspected, she wouldn't be able to protect Ichika. Charlotte imagined how disappointed Ichika might feel if he ever discovered her embarrassing situation, and she promised herself to keep it a secret until Byakushiki returned to normal. When Charlotte stepped out of the room, she ran into Cecilia, Haoki, and Lingyan, who seemed to have overheard part of her conversation. They asked what she was hiding, and once they learned the truth, they immediately went to talk to Ichika about Byakushiki. Each of them wanted to protect him, which quickly turned into a playful argument about who had the right to stay closest to Ichika. Charlotte arrived and quickly urged Ichika to leave with her, and Ichika immediately ran after her while Charlotte apologized for the sudden rush. Out of nowhere, Cecilia's Blue Tears weapons fired toward them, and Charlotte quickly told Ichika to duck to avoid the attack. Cecilia explained that she was not using the full power of her weapons and confidently offered to become Ichika's personal protector. Ichika was confused since Cecilia had just fired lasers at the very person she claimed she wanted to protect. Not long after, Lingyan hurled her weapon in Ichika's direction, and Charlotte again warned Ichika to duck. Lingyan then announced that she too wanted to protect Ichika. Cecilia and Lingyan were about to fight, but Haoki stepped in to block them, insisting that she was the one who would protect Ichika. Of course, Cecilia and Lingyan refused to hand Ichika over Haoki, and seeing the growing argument, Charlotte tried to calm everyone down. Suddenly, Tatiana appeared and reminded them that using infinite stratos for personal reasons was against the rules. The others told her not to interfere, but Tatiana boldly declared that she would defeat all of them if that was what it took to take Ichika away. In the end, everyone deactivated their weapons, and Tatiana gave them a punishment of sweeping the entire ground floor of the school. Later that afternoon, Ichika spent time with Charlotte. He felt the punishment was unfair and decided to face Chifuyu himself, believing the Byakushiki incident had been his fault. Charlotte offered to come along, but Ichika refused, saying she had already worked hard and this time it was his turn to take responsibility. He thanked Charlotte before leaving. Charlotte quietly blamed herself and wondered if she should have told Ichika the truth earlier, but realized that doing so might have meant she failed to protect him. Unsure what to do, she remembered a moment from her childhood when she had accidentally broken her mother's favorite mirror and cried in fear of being scolded. Instead of getting angry, her mother gently comforted her and asked if she was hurt. Her mother told her that Charlotte was more important than any object and hugged her tightly. Charlotte cried and apologized, and her mother praised her for being honest and asked her to always tell the truth. Remembering those words, Charlotte made up her mind to be honest with Ichika, believing he would not hate her. She called out to Ichika, determined to reveal her secret. Nervously, she tugged at her skirt, which startled Ichika, and Charlotte pleaded with him to look so she could show him what she had discovered. Before she could finish lifting her skirt slightly, Laura suddenly appeared and interrupted the moment. Laura leaned over to peek and casually remarked that Charlotte was wearing regular underwear. Charlotte was shocked and then realized that she was, in fact, wearing normal underwear again, which meant everything had returned to normal. Overjoyed, Charlotte excitedly pointed this out to Ichika, but Ichika kept turning his face away in embarrassment. Feeling flustered, Charlotte accused him of being pervy, even though Ichika had no idea why she said that. Meanwhile, Maya reported new information to Chifuyu. She explained that an unfinished Infinite Stratos unit had been shipped using a new method of quantum alteration. Chifuyu suspected it had already been destroyed during an attack, which would explain the strange effect on Byakushiki. Maya felt relieved that the issue was only temporary and would soon return to normal. She was glad Ichika was safe, but Chifuyu pointed out that the situation had partly been caused by Ichika's own carelessness. Maya also confirmed that the person behind all this had no connection to Phantom Task. Back with Charlotte and Laura, Charlotte finally understood that her underwear had been undergoing quantum changes the entire day, and Laura, still puzzled, wondered why Charlotte hadn't just worn something different, joking about how even the Queen of France once said that if there were no regular undergarments, something else would have to do. One day, Kanzashi, the younger sister of Tatanashi, was checking an Infinite Stratos unit. She noticed that the unit's movement response felt sluggish, and the output of its core wasn't increasing either. Kanzashi couldn't figure out why and wondered if the type of unit might be the problem. She decided to stop working for the moment and headed back to her room. At that time, Tatanashi quietly watched her from outside the room. That morning, Kaoruko, the head of the school bulletin club, approached Ichika and Haoki to ask for their help. She explained that her older sister, who worked at a publishing company, wanted to interview them as Infinite Stratos pilots who each owned a personal unit. Kaoruko then showed them a magazine from the publisher where her sister worked. When Haoki opened the magazine, she pointed out that it didn't seem to have anything to do with Infinite Stratos. Kaoruko then asked if this would be their first time receiving such a request, since people who own their own Infinite Stratos units usually became the center of attention, similar to idols, and sometimes even worked as models. Ichika turned to Haoki, wondering if that was true, but Haoki didn't know either. Suddenly, Lingyan showed up, excited to show a photo of herself where she worked as a model. Ichika immediately stalked her, guessing that Lingyan's pose was probably strange. Lingyan denied it and quickly showed a photo on her phone anyway. Ichika admitted that the pose was actually not bad, so Lingyan went on to show a few more photos. Not long after, the school bell rang and Kaoruko said goodbye. Right at that moment, Chifuryu walked up, lightly tapped Lingyan on the head, and told her to get back to Class 1-2. That day, Chifuryu was teaching Class 1-1. She explained some of the most effective moves for close-range combat and how to keep distance from an opponent. Meanwhile, in Class 1-4, Kanzashi was busy working on the programming for her Infinite Stratos. Her classmates were chatting about a special event that only pilots with their own personal units could attend. Kanzashi planned to join, but unfortunately, her unit still wasn't finished. Her friends hoped she would complete it in time. After school, Ichika accompanied Haoki for kendo practice. While they trained, Ichika asked what Haoki thought about Kaoruko's interview request earlier that morning. Haoki firmly refused, saying that showing herself off like an object went against her principles. Ichika admitted he had already expected her to say that. Suddenly, Kaoruko appeared to follow up about the interview. Ichika was about to give Haoki's answer, but before he could speak, Kaoruko offered them a meal coupon for a 3-star hotel as a thank you. Ichika tried to decline, but Haoki took the coupon and accepted the interview request instead. Kaoruko smiled and told them the interview would be held on Sunday, then left before Ichika could say anything. Surprised, Ichika questioned Haoki about her principles, but Haoki calmly replied that her principles could change depending on the situation. Ichika didn't quite understand why she would say that. Haoki then asked if they would go together to use the meal coupon, and Ichika confirmed they would, since he would also be at the interview. Haoki looked pleased and said she couldn't wait for the day to come. Meanwhile, Kanzashi was relaxing by watching an anime about a hero who saves a girl from danger. She quietly wished that someday a hero would also come to help and protect her. On Sunday morning, Ichika and Haoki went to meet Nagisako, Kaoruko's older sister, for the interview. Nagisako greeted them warmly and introduced herself as an assistant editor for Infinite Stripes magazine. Ichika and Haoki introduced themselves as well. Nagisako began the interview by asking Ichika how it felt to be the only male student at an all-girls school. Ichika admitted that it was sometimes difficult to find a restroom he could actually use. Nagisako laughed, saying that what her younger sister had told her about Ichika was true. She then turned to Haoki, asking how she felt when her older sister gave her a personal Infinite Stratos unit and whether she planned to become a national representative. Haoki expressed her gratitude for receiving Akatsubeki, but explained that for now, she wasn't interested in becoming a national representative, even though she had already received several offers. Nagisako then asked which of them was stronger. Haoki confidently stated that she was stronger, and Ichika agreed without hesitation. Nagisako commented that it was a little surprising for someone who was supposed to be a hero. Ichika quickly clarified that he wasn't a hero at all. He was just an ordinary soldier. Nagisako asked why he fought if he didn't see himself as a hero. After thinking for a moment, Ichika answered that he fought to protect his friends. Haoki was touched when she heard that. After the interview, Nagisako invited them to take part in a photo session. Haoki hurried into the changing room while imagining Ichika saying that he would protect her. The thought made her so excited that she lightly hit the locker in anticipation. When she saw the outfit prepared for the photo shoot, Haoki was surprised because it was more revealing than she expected. Still, she considered it a good opportunity. At that time, Ichika was already standing in front of the camera, ready for the shoot. Haoki walked out wearing a striking dress that looked more glamorous than her usual style. Ichika was captivated by how different she looked and told her the outfit suited her well. He also said that Hoki looked beautiful in it. Embarrassed yet happy to hear his compliment, Hoki quickly turned her back so he wouldn't see her smiling. Nagisako, the photographer, got ready to take pictures and asked them to sit closer together. For the next pose, Nagisako suggested Ichika put his arm around Hoki's waist to create a more mature look. Ichika was startled by the request but couldn't refuse, while Hoki blushed deeply as she moved closer to him. Both of them tried to hide their nervousness, but the pose made Nagisako very pleased. Next, Nagisako asked Hoki to place her arm around Ichika's neck. Hoki followed the instruction, and their eyes met as the camera clicked several times. After capturing a series of shots, Nagisako looked delighted with the results. Hoki and Ichika immediately stepped apart, both looking awkward after the close poses. Nagisako thanked them for their cooperation, and the photo session ended. Soon after, Hoki and Ichika left together. As they walked side by side, Hoki secretly wished they were completely alone because Ichika's presence felt so close. The thought made her cheeks flush as she imagined what it might feel like if they shared a quiet moment together. Suddenly, the heel of Hoki's shoe got stuck in a small gap on the pavement, causing her to stumble. She quickly grabbed Ichika's arm to keep her balance. Ichika immediately asked if she was alright, but Hoki reassured him that she was fine. One of her heels had slipped off, so she removed the other one to walk more evenly. However, as they continued, Hoki nearly fell again because her ankle was starting to hurt. Ichika caught her in time and told her not to push herself, especially since she had never worn high heels before. Concerned for her, he crouched down and offered her a piggyback ride so she wouldn't strain her foot. Hoki hesitated at first but eventually climbed onto his back. Ichika carried her the rest of the way. Hoki thanked him sincerely while Ichika calmly said it was only natural for him to protect her. Hearing that made Hoki's face grow even warmer. Exhausted from the long day, Hoki eventually fell asleep on his back and unconsciously murmured Ichika's name, softly expressing her feelings for him in her sleep. That night, Madoka was still awake when Squall entered her room to discuss a recent incident. Squall reminded her that her mission was only to steal an Infinite Stratos unit from another country. To test Madoka's awareness, Squall suddenly activated her own Infinite Stratos and made a quick move toward her. Madoka reacted instantly, impressing Squall with her sharp reflexes. Squall repeated that for now, Madoka was still an important member of Phantom Task. Madoka admitted that she wanted to set things right, and Squall asked if this was about Ichika. Madoka said that Ichika was not an enemy and that she could defeat him if she ever truly wanted to. Squall guessed it might instead involve Chifuyu and suggested that defeating Chifuyu should have been easy, since Chifuyu currently had no Infinite Stratos unit. Hearing this, Madoka kicked Squall in frustration, refusing to let anyone underestimate Chifuyu. In Madoka's eyes, Squall was no match for her. Squall left the room but reminded Madoka to stay in line until the next mission. Meanwhile, Ichika was walking through the dormitory halls, still thinking about what Madoka had said during their previous encounter. On his way, he ran into Chifuyu and asked whether they had any other family members, perhaps a younger sister. Chifuyu firmly replied that Ichika was her only family. The next day, Maya announced that there would be a team match designed to improve the skills of pilots who own their own Infinite Stratos units. Since more and more Infinite Stratos units have been stolen around the world, cooperation between personal unit owners was becoming more important. During lunch break, Charlotte brought a homemade meal for Ichika. Ichika felt really happy and thanked her. They enjoyed their lunch together on the school rooftop. Ichika commented that Charlotte was great at cooking Japanese dishes. Charlotte felt delighted to hear his compliment. Not long after, Lingyan showed up and asked Ichika to taste the stir-fried meat she had made. Ichika enjoyed the flavor, which made Lingyan smile with satisfaction. Charlotte and Lingyan exchanged sharp looks at each other. Ichika casually mentioned that anyone who could cook that well would make a wonderful wife someday. Both of their faces turned red after hearing that, and they began competing to feed him bites of their dishes. Ichika felt puzzled by their kindness, but they simply smiled and said it was nothing unusual. Charlotte then asked what kind of partner Ichika would want to team up with for the upcoming match. Ichika admitted that his shooting skills were still weak, so he hoped for a partner who could protect certain areas while focusing on teamwork to build compatibility. Curious in return, he asked what kind of partner Lingyan and Charlotte would like. Lingyan said she wanted someone who would help her when cornered and fight seriously at her side. Charlotte agreed with Lingyan's answer and added that she also wanted a partner who could think quickly during a match. After training, Ichika returned to his room and was surprised to find Tatanashi already waiting for him. Tatanashi earnestly asked Ichika to look after her younger sister. She showed him a photo of her sister Kanzashi and explained that Kanzashi was quiet and reserved but possessed decent abilities. Kanzashi was representing Japan, yet she still did not have a personal Infinite Stratos unit, and that, according to Tatanashi, was partly because of Ichika. Ichika was startled by the news. Tatanashi explained that Kanzashi's personal unit was being developed by the same company that handled Ichika's Byakushiki. However, since Byakushiki was given priority, Kanzashi's unit had been delayed. Ichika apologized sincerely. Tatehanashi then asked him to pair up with Kanzashi for the team match, even bowing her head to plead with him. Ichika wondered if he needed to invite Kanzashi himself. Tatehanashi requested that he not mention her name when making the invitation. Ichika suspected there might be tension between Tatehanashi and her sister, and Tatehanashi did not deny it. Understanding the situation, Ichika promised to try convincing Kanzashi. The next day, Laura approached Ichika and asked him to sign the registration form for the team match because she wanted to be his partner. Ichika declined, explaining that he had already promised to team up with someone else. Hearing this shocked Laura and the others nearby. Laura, frustrated, declared that she was his wife and questioned why he would choose someone else. In her agitation, she activated her weapon, ready to confront him. Fortunately, Shifuyu quickly stepped in to stop her and firmly scolded Laura for activating a weapon in class. Laura insisted she was only dealing with a matter between husband and wife. Shifuyu sharply replied that she had no need for an overconfident sister-in-law. Her words struck Laura deeply. Shifuyu then instructed Ichika to escort Laura back to her seat. Later that afternoon, Ichika trained with Haoki. Haoki commented that he was too slow. When Ichika fired a shot at her, Haoki easily deflected it and launched a counterattack, steadily draining Ichika's shield energy. Despite his efforts, Ichika still could not defeat her. After the training, Haoki quickly changed her clothes, feeling pleased about her victory. She felt even happier because Ichika had mentioned having a partner, and she confidently believed that he meant her. At the same time, Cecilia was also changing clothes and felt cheerful, certain that she was the one Ichika had chosen. Haoki was surprised to see Cecilia in such high spirits. They exchanged greetings, each quietly convinced that she was the chosen partner. Both of them believed they had already won Ichika's heart. Meanwhile, Ichika headed to Class 1-4 to meet Kanzashi. Approaching her, he politely introduced himself. Kanzashi replied that she already knew who he was and asked what business he had with her. Ichika invited her to be his partner for the team match, but Kanzashi immediately refused. She even remarked that she technically had the right to scold him but would not bother because it was too tiring. Ichika felt awkward in response to her blunt attitude.